Hello and welcome to another Woman of the Week. I'm Jackie Rives, your community leader for Women of the Channel Leadership Network. I am super excited to have with me today one of our biggest fans and also a member of our team, CJ Fairfield, Senior Associate Editor for CRN for the Channel Company. Welcome, CJ. I'm so glad to have you here.
So glad for you to ask me to do this. I'm so excited.
Yeah, this is so fun. I'm really excited. So let's start off easy with where do you live and where did you grow up, if that's something different?
So it's the same place. I grew up at the Jersey Shore, but I have to say, not that Jersey Shore, not the show, but I did grow up in New Jersey at the shore, and I still live there. I bought a house 5 minutes from the beach, and I love it.
Oh, that's so awesome. I did not know that about you. So we have stuff to talk about because I grew up not too far and summered there. So definitely we'll have to talk about that. All right. So what is a little known fact about you?
So I forget this is a thing. So I grew up dancing, like jazz, tap, ballet. I did it for about 11 years as a child. And the cool thing is we used to do professional shows. I did professional shows. I was like 12 dancing in professional shows in the casinos in Atlantic City with kind of famous people. Like the big one we did was with Andrea McCardle. She was the first original Annie on Broadway when that debuted on Broadway before I was born. But we used to do these crazy Christmas shows for the whole month of December. We used to do matinees. My mom used to pull us out of school. And so I was like in professional shows as a child. And it's like a past life of mine. It was 25 years ago. But yeah, I was like a professional performer as a child. But then I stopped dancing when I got to high school. So, but that's so I can still tap. I'm still a very good tapper. So I'm not flexible anymore, but I can still do some time steps.
I might get you to do some at the next one I see you at. That's pretty cool. I like that. All right. So let's talk about your career path and maybe how you reached your position today.
Sure. So, I went to school, studying journalism, and through my educational career, I basically was always taught, like, I only knew newspapers, magazine and newspapers and broadcast. I didn't want to go into broadcast. I like print journalism. So when I was in school, I was like, I'm going to work at a newspaper. And like, that's all I knew. I knew you can do other things, but I was like, I'm going to stay in newspapers. So I did. I started in local newspapers I worked at 3 different newspapers, and I knew I wanted to transition out of them because, truth be told, there's not a lot of money in local journalism. Newspapers are sadly dying. So I thought that I would go to a comms position for maybe like a hospital or a city or a college. And then the Channel Company literally slid into my DMs on LinkedIn. They were like, hey, we had this opportunity at the Channel Company. I had never heard of the Channel Company or the channel. I was like, is this a scam? And so I did some research, figured out it was not a scam. And our HR director, Erica, did a phone call with me, explained to me what it was, explained that there's travel. And I was like, yes, put me on a plane. And then when I did my interview, I was like, I think I know tech because I'm a millennial. And turns out I didn't know anything. But my amazing editors, Jen and Steve, said in our interview, she's like, we will teach you the tech. Like, we want writers. We want to teach you the tech. So they brought me on board, and and actually today is my 2-year anniversary with the Channel Company.
That's amazing. Congratulations. Well, I'm so glad that they slid into your DMs, for one, because I'm really glad that I've gotten a chance to get to know you a little bit. And I had no idea it was just 2 years. You just seem to be, a staple here as a writer CRN. So that's something new I learned today. So, okay. How do you differentiate yourself?
Okay. So this is going to sound maybe silly, but I think it's my personality. Like, I've been told I would not be shy. I do think I have a good personality. I'm not great at everything, but I won't be shy. That I just have a good personality. I don't know. So but people tell me this. People like in the channel are like, I make them feel important when I'm talking to them, or that I make them feel like that they're the only person in the room. I didn't know I was doing that. I'm just being myself. It's funny. I was actually talking to MSPs. I'm on site at a conference right now in ConnectWise in Orlando. And I had an MSP say, I've actually never met a reporter who's like really cool like you. And
Oh,
which is funny
wow.
because I know a lot of reporters and I think they're all cool, but I've been told that, people are just very like, you're the best, you're the greatest, we love you. So I think just me having like a nice smile and being nice to people and loving people and being supportive kind of differentiates me. I don't know. I had like a big exec come over and just give me a hug yesterday, which I was like, oh my gosh, like little reporter me.
That's
So
so
I think,
awesome.
yeah, it may be silly, but I think just how I am makes me stand out.
No, I don't think it's silly at all. That's probably if I could explain the connection I've had with you and because we only see each other at events, which is, I don't go to all the events, so it's not a lot, but you have a very warm personality. And as you were saying that, I kind of thought about, that saying, people may forget the words that you say, but they're never going to forget how you make them feel. And I would say that's pretty much who you are. So
Thank you.
I agree. All right, let's go a little bit deeper with, have you ever questioned your abilities or qualifications? And if so, how did you overcome that challenge?
So that's a perfect segue from what we just talked about because I have, and I've spoke about this on LinkedIn, I have crippling imposter syndrome. Like,
Mm.
I don't think I'm cool. So when people come up to me and give me hugs or CEOs are like, CJ, you're the best. And I'm like, why? Like, honestly, Jackie, I write from my couch and I always have housewives on in the background, just hanging out with my dog. And I just write and I'm just like, I'm not that cool, guys. I just write the things. And people tell me, like, I have been at conferences now when people are like, oh, you're CJ. Like, I've heard about you. I've seen your stuff. I've seen you on LinkedIn. And I'm just like, that's so weird. I'm not that cool. So I don't know where it stems from, but I just have this, I don't think I'm good enough. I know I'm good at writing. I won't be shy at that. I have too much student loan debt to pretend that I'm not a good writer, that I have a master's degree. But I have imposter syndrome and I don't think I'm ever good enough or I'm ever doing it good enough. But my own editors have reinforced that I'm actually killing it and people tell me that amazing. I have not overcome this. I'm still struggling today with imposter syndrome. So
I'm
it's a
glad that you
journey.
shared that because I think that's a pretty common thing. I mean, I myself go through that. I see a lot of similarities here, so I can totally relate to what you're saying. But yeah, you are a rock star. I enjoy reading what you're writing, especially when you're doing it about your home improvements, because I just laugh out loud. All right, so let's pivot from there and talk about some experiences or transformational moments in your life.
It actually happened as a reporter at CRN. 3 months into the job, I went to a conference in Jersey City that was held by IT by Design. And the second night of their conference, they rented out Liberty Island, where the Statue of Liberty is. And they basically threw a party. And so I get on the boat, I go there, and I know like two people at this point, 3 months in the job. And we go there and there's food and they literally had a DJ playing like throwback jams from like the 90s and early 2000s, and you have the New York skyline in the background. And I remember just like having a moment, like, how did I get here? Like,
Yeah.
how did because my background is, I started a weekly newspaper in rural Virginia where once, Jackie, I literally wrote about a tree falling. That was a news story I wrote. A tree fell. And like, so
Got to start somewhere.
it was the office. So they had 5 people in it. I had no support system. I had some cool editors. It was just such a small, everyone was a farmer. And so you got to start somewhere, especially in journalism. And I was like, a couple of years ago, I was writing about a tree falling. And now I'm here like hanging out with CEOs and tech people overlooking the Statue of Liberty and the New York skyline. I was like, how did I? And it's funny because I actually reached out to the sports editor who was at that local newspaper because he was always like, your career's trending upward. And I thought it was a joke. I'm like, okay, Steve, LOL. His name's Steve, just like my editor. So I actually reached out to him and I was like, Steve, you'll never believe this. My career is actually trending upward. Like, I was just actually at the Statue of Liberty hanging out. It's paid for by my job and whatever. So I didn't feel like I made it, but I was like, this is crazy how I started from a tiny, small covering just local stuff in a rural county and trees falling in the road, and I'm interviewing CEOs and dancing at the Statue of Liberty. So
Yeah,
that's my fun transformational moment.
that is totally worth celebrating. Like those victories that give us that feeling like, yes, I am making progress on my goals, or like, wow, how did I get here? And just kind of reflecting. And I love that you reached back out to him and let him know that what he saw was absolutely right. So I love that. Okay. Awesome. All right. So what biases or stereotypes have you come along the way, and how did you handle them?
It's really funny because when I was at regular local news,
Mhm.
it's very diverse. Newspapers and broadcast journals, it's very diverse. So when I came to the channel, I was like, okay, we got a lot of work to do here. A lot of old white men. It's getting better, but it's still far away from where it needs to be. So, as a woman, it's of course you get hit on in the channel all the time. I'm trying to handle that in a better way, but little things like I get mansplained a lot too.
Mhm.
And I get mansplained simple things, but the best thing I do, Jackie, is I call it out when it happens. I actually had a man mansplain me the word flip to me, like just the word flip. He was like, so you put it there and you flip with that one. I was like, did you just mansplain the word flip to me? I call it right out. I'm like, and he was like, yeah. And I'm like, but then I kind of made it funny. So I was like,
Yeah.
oh, like flip it and reverse it, like Missy Elliott. So I make it uncomfortable, but I call out, I've been mansplained multiple times in the channel, and I call it right out. I make them kind of feel silly no one should be mansplained. So I make it a point to call it out when it happens.
That I admire that. That's amazing. And I love that you're doing it in a way to put it out there, but also your personality comes through, that you're not even coming from a bad place. You're just like, whoa, hold on.
Mm-hmm.
Think about this, which I think is probably very appreciative on the receiving end. So
right. I didn't want to make it awkward. So it was
yeah,
I was like, and I literally put a GIF of like Missy Elliott. I was like, just like that. He's like, yeah, like that. So I make it not as awkward at the end.
yeah, I love that. Okay. All right. I think we have time for one more question, which I'm excited about. How do you define successful leadership?
So I wanted to do this question to basically talk about my editors. I am not a leader. I don't have anyone under me. In my role, I don't think I'm a leader. I'm not leading anyone else. The only person I lead in my life is my dog. So Jen Follett and Steve Burke are my editors at CRN, and they have been amazing. And I think leadership, just from watching them be leaders, is actually caring about who they're leading. And it doesn't have to be about work. It can just be about checking in and saying, hey, how you're doing. Every time I need Steve for something, or just for example, if I'm taking vacation, I'm not like, Steve, can I? He's like, absolutely, buddy. Go ahead and do it. Take it, good for you. Take whatever time you need. Like, make sure. And he's always a supporter, and Jen's always supporter. I can go to them for anything. And they just care. Jen, I had a death in the family a while ago, and Jen sent something to my house, just a little token of her, condolences of. So it's stuff like that. They actually care about their employees and the people they oversee. And I think that makes the world of a difference.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, except for the part about you not being a leader.
I just think I was like, I'm not a boss. No one reports to me. So I guess it's
that's a manager.
I could be.
You are a leader, because you are leading. Yes, you're leading in the way you present yourself. You're leading in the way that, you're helping open the eyes when it's a situation like the mansplaining. That's being a leader. Like, you're not just letting it go and walking away. You're like, hey, let me point out like how you could do better with this. You're also like, you're leading as a voice of women of the channel, like all the people that you introduced me to, and you're opening people's eyes to that. So give yourself some credit, because you are pretty amazing, which is why I wanted to do this Woman of the Week interview with you.
Thank you. I guess some people sometimes maybe say I'm a thought leader, although here comes the imposter syndrome. I don't think I am, but I just think you have to be a cheerleader. And Steve Burke is a cheerleader. I'm sure everyone in the channel knows Steve Burke, and I want to get him pom-poms because he is my biggest cheerleader and support system, and I can go to him for everything. And so I look at them like, that's how you lead, is you actually care and you lead with compassion and you meet whoever you're leading where they are. And it's helpful. They're not just like, do whatever you got to do for work. They're like, what, how can we help you? Many times Steve has said to me, if you can't get it done, give it to me and I'll write the story. Steve is right to get in the dirt with me and get stuff done. And I'm like, this is Steve. Don't tell my other editors. Steve is in my past. Steve is like my favorite editor ever. So he just, don't tell the other ones, but he's amazing. So
awesome. Well, CJ, I can't thank you enough for giving us the time today to get to know you a little bit better, especially since you're out traveling and writing stories for different conferences right now. So thank you again for spending a little bit of time with us.
thank you so much for having me. Love you always.
Oh, I love you too. All right, Women of the Channel Leadership Network. That was another Woman of the Week. Please give CJ some shout outs, and I hope you enjoyed getting to know her a little better. So happy Wednesday.